Okay, everyone, we are now on the second half of our notes from yesterday. So this time we're going to be talking about slope when we're not actually given a graph to us. Instead, we're given 2 points on a line, okay? So when this is the case, we're going to use the actual formula for slope. So we can still think of it as rise over run, but we're going to use what's called x1, y1 and x2, y2. Those are two just generic ways to name two sets of coordinate points, okay? So we can still think of we can think of your y values as your rise. Because remember, your y is what's going up and down on your graph, okay? Your x's we can think of as your run, okay? And that's, again, we're going side to side, left to right on a graph with your x's. So for your slope, what you're going to do is take your rise, your y2 minus your y1. You're going to find the difference of your y values, and you're going to find the difference of your x values. So x2 minus x1. And the order does matter here, okay? So all that is saying is that we're finding the change in y over the change in x, okay? So for this first example here, we're going to find the slope of the line with these points. So I'm going to go ahead and label, this will be my x1, y1, and this will be my x2, y2, okay? So again, using that new formula here, we want our change in y, so y2 minus y1. So I'm going to take 3 minus 1 on my top, and then for my change in x, I'm going to do 2 minus negative 4. Okay, and I'm going to put that negative 4 in parentheses here just so I don't mess up my signs. So 3 minus 1 is easy. That we right away can see is 2. And 2 minus a negative 4. Remember, 2 minuses make a plus sign. So if I simplify that a little bit more, I get 2 over 6. And remember, with your slope, you always want to simplify all the way down. So we can see that 2 and 6 are both even, so 2 goes into both of those. And that simplifies down to 1/3. Okay, so if we have a line containing these 2 points up here and wanted to find the slope, 1/3 would be our answer. And here they're explaining this. So here are 2 points that they gave us graphed, okay? So if you wanted, you could technically make the line here. We're saying that change in y is represented by this green line. 3 minus 1, we could see we went up by 2, right? And here we can see our change in x, we went to the right 6. So just like we were doing above, we have 2 over 6, and we get 1/3, okay? So before we start finding some slopes, let's try simplifying some of these fractions just for some extra practice here. We have negative 3/9, that can simplify down to negative 1/3. 4/10, we could do that to 2/5. And so on here. Let's see, I want to make sure we'll do just a couple together and you guys can figure out the rest. Negative 7 over 1, that can be just negative 7, okay? Whenever you have a negative over a negative, remember, you're going to get a positive answer. So this negative 1 over negative 8 all the way to the right could be could be 1/8, okay? Now, down here at the bottom left, we have 4 over negative 7. Well, we can't simplify that anymore. So all they want us to do is take that negative sign out, and we can put that on the top too. They just want you to recognize that. Okay, same idea with this 1 over negative 8. We could say negative 1/8. Remember, 0 over anything, that's just going to be 0. Oh, I skipped one up there. And remember, anytime you have 12 over 0, or you have any number over 0 on the bottom, you absolutely can't have that. That's when you have your undefined slope, okay? So you can shorten it with that UND if you'd like. Okay, so there, I went ahead and finished those all out, okay? Now, practicing finding slope. Let's look at this first example here. Again, I'm going to go ahead and label this as my first set, this is my second set, so I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So for my slope, I want my change in y, so I'm going to do my y2 minus y1, so 2 minus negative 1 over 6 minus 4. And if I do that, that's technically 2 plus 1, right? So we get 3. And 6 minus 4 is 2. So my answer is 3/2. Now, I want to show you something else. We could have technically said this was x2 and this was y2 and this was x1 and this was y1. And I'll show you why that works here. So if we did it that way, we would have we would have -1 minus 2 on the top over, on the bottom, our change in x would then be 4 minus 6. If we go ahead and do that, we would get -3 over -2. And remember that negative over a negative just simplifies to a positive. So as long as you're consistent with how you're naming these, it technically doesn't matter. As long as you have your 1's together and then your 2's together in the same coordinate, it doesn't matter how you label them. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But if you have any questions on what I mean by that, please let me know. Okay, so moving on here to this next one, I'm again going to go ahead and label my x1, y1 and x2, y2 coordinates. And I'm going to have my m is equal to my change in y, so my y2 minus y1, so 3 minus -2, all over my change in x, which will be 4 minus 3. So to simplify that, remember 3 minus -2, that's the same thing as 3 plus 2, so I'm going to get 5 in my numerator over 1 in my denominator, which again, anytime you have something over 1, that just simplifies to what your numerator is. So 5 in this case. Okay. Moving on to the next one here. Instead of doing my x1, y1 on the left, I'm going to go ahead and do it over here on the right, just to switch things up so you can see that it should work both ways again. So I'm going to go ahead and do my slope is equal to y2 minus y1, so my 4 minus 12, all over my change in x. So this time it'll be 0 minus -3. So to simplify, I have 4 minus 12, so that's going to be a -8. And then on the bottom here, I have 0 plus 3 technically, which is just 3. So my slope will be -8/3. And again, you can check it the other way and make sure you get the same thing, but I promise you should get this answer, okay? And we'll do one more problem here together. We'll do the bottom left here. So again, I'm going to go ahead and label x1, y1 and x2, y2. So I'm going to have my slope is equal to my y2 minus y1, so 1 minus 7 over x2, so -3 minus -1. So in my numerator, 1 minus 7, that's going to give me -6. And my denominator, that's technically -3 plus 1, so that's going to give me -2. So now technically that's -6 divided by -2. So a negative over a negative is going to equal a positive, and 6 over 2 simplifies down to 3. Now technically you could write 3 over 1 then equals 3, but it's fine if you jump right to 3, okay? So you guys go ahead and finish the rest of these problems here, check your key, and then you're going to go ahead and finish up the homework on the very last page of your notes too, okay? Let me know if you have any questions.